Before we get started, Talk Music Talk has a newsletter, a weekly email featuring the current week's guests, plus what past guests are up to. Also, I'll tell you about shows I've attended and new music that I like. To sign up, head on over to talkmusictalk.com, click on the link, subscribe to newsletter, and you are all set. That's talkmusictalk.com. And now for today's episode. Hello there, my friend. Welcome to another episode of Talk Music Talk with Boyce. I am Boyce, and this is my podcast that you are listening to. If this is your first time listening to Talk Music Talk, it is a weekly music interview podcast where I have long-form conversations with people who are connected to music from different genres and different backgrounds, established and emerging musicians, singers, singer-songwriters, music therapists, music journalists. And on this episode, I had the pleasure of speaking to Eartheater, a.k.a. Alex Drewchin, musician, performance artist, visual artist, New York-based. She was raised on a farm in Northeast Pennsylvania, homeschooled until she was 15. She attended public school then, and in that same year, she picked up a guitar and started writing songs. Although she had been playing violin since she was age 3, we talk about a lot in this great conversation. We talk about life on a farm. We talk about her musical influences, her thoughts on artists being paid. We talk about her intentions with her art. Also, a funny story about meeting Roberta Flack when she was busking in Central Park. She released 2 albums in 2015, Metalepsis and RIP Chrysalis. She has a forthcoming album coming out this year. We get some insight into it. Also, Alex was kind enough to share 2 previously unreleased songs that will not be on the new album, Central Nervous Sister and the instrumental The Pond, featuring her mom and her brother, which was recorded on the farm. 2 great songs, which will be right after the conversation. And we recorded this in her studio space, so there is some studio noise in the background towards the end. Does not take away from a great conversation. You will still enjoy it. I guarantee it. Here it is, without further ado, my conversation with Eartheater, Alex Drewchin on Talk Music Talk. Enjoy. So I enjoyed your performance at Knockdown.
Thank you.
Center. Very intense and visceral. Yeah. And I'm curious, do you have to get yourself into a certain mindset to do an Eartheater performance?
Well, so far I'm in a rapid transitional period where every performance is very different. Mm-hmm. And it's not about me coaxing a part of me to come out, or it's really, there's a sort of a crystal ball inside me that's like, this is what's going to happen.
Okay. Because
the next show that I did after that, maybe in juxtaposition, which is something I love to use, was like, you're going to wear a long pink trench coat and hardly move at all, and mm-hmm. practically whisper into the microphone. Okay. and so I really, it's about full exploration. Yeah. And, but that night in particular at Knockdown Center, I felt like I was completely out of control. I mm-hmm. felt like something totally came over me. And part of me was like, hold up. Let's stop. Let's just check the sound again and just regroup. My outer outfit, which was supposed to come off halfway through the show, just sort of fell off in the first song. And I was like, all right, well, we're going there. It just kind of felt like a tsunami.
Okay. So what is the rehearsal for you? How's that different?
The rehearsal is much more calm. It's much more about the sound and sort of game plans with the girls. The sound in that room was very boomy and extremely erratic. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of why I just went for it without even stopping for a second, because I knew we wouldn't be able to dial it to a place how it sounded in rehearsal. And that's something that I do. I'm kind of somebody that tends to just skip that like awkward sort of like figuring out sort of zone and just like go with the tide of the ocean. And sometimes I think I embrace that, and I'm like down with that personality trait, and sometimes I'm like, damn, Alex, I wish you would just, you know, take the time to step back. But to me, honestly, it was I think if it was a bigger show with more people and like more of a you know, if it wasn't already such an like outer order sort of show, I would have probably tried to get it back to where we were in rehearsal, for instance, as opposed to me just like taking the bull by the horns and like riding it.
How much is like preordained beforehand, like the music part, and like is it all like, so is there any room for improvisation?
There's a lot of room for improvisation vocally, for sure. And as I've been sort of moving into software production and trying to flex on, you know, developing a highly conceived sonic experience that I can then use to perform over, because I'm realizing so much of my impulse as an artist is to use my body and to really use my voice and to use the energy in the room. And in the past, I was playing guitar and I had a huge pedal board and I would lug these synths with me, and I only have 2 arms and 10 fingers, but yet I would somehow try to imagine I was Kali and I had more arms and more fingers than I really do possess. And it really became sort of like frustrating for me to be able to do all of that together. But that being said, part of the transition is like, you know, making these tracks that allow for a lot of improvisation on top of them. But the dream ultimately is to get a band together. But I really want to pay my people properly. And part of the reason why, especially if you're lugging drum sets and blah, 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 you know, I feel like I've been doing this long enough that I see a lot of people working for free, and that's where a lot of animosity is suddenly like seated. That's where a lot of jealousy is seated. That's where a lot of just like difficult conversations start happening. And as much as I would love to have a bassist and a drummer and 3 backup singers and the whole thing, I kind of, hopefully that will happen after I put out my next record and I talk to a label that hopefully wants to really support me. And it's not that those things have not been out of my reach. I just I've chosen not to get myself into that quite yet. I just want to enter that in a more elegant fashion and really pay professional players.
Okay.
Yeah. Because
the animosity can be where you're getting paid, but then everyone else around you isn't.
Exactly. Yeah. And at this point, I mean, to me, if you told me, I mean, I'll just be straight up about like fees and stuff, because I think that's interesting. Like, that the Knockdown show was a door bill, so it was like whatever. I think we made maybe like $150, but and it was split evenly with the girls, so everyone made $30. But you know, I've played shows like I've played Copenhagen. Pass, right? But you know, but when I go to Europe, average fee is like €500 to €1,000. Sometimes it can get up to, you know, a couple thousand euro. But for my lifestyle in New York, I live frugally, but I'm like, all right, that's my bread and butter. You know, I'm not skimming off extra butter to like use as like a facial. You know, like I don't know.
It's not spa money, right?
There's no spa money. Literally, no. I'm like, I would use avocado. But I mean, that's the thing, you know, and especially I want to bring, and it's not even about paying anybody. I want to use whatever platform I have to elevate, the marginalized musicians, and especially my girls. And because it's just crazy to me, I've been here in New York doing this for since I was 17, and I'm like, where is the studio that's owned by women that I can just go to? Because when you have a team, that's when I think there's more, it can be more relaxed with pro bono stuff, making favors, that currency is ultimately the most valuable, because that's where you build a family, and that's also what I'm trying to do. For instance, Kiri, who was on The Prophet that night, I'm totally in love with this girl, and she's my, as team mommy, I'm wanting to do whatever I can to make her feel safe, to make her feel okay. And also give her opportunities, and, not to mention, I'm just impressed by how much she knows. She's 22. She's already extremely smart when it comes to sound.
Excellent. Yeah. And you are going back a little, originally from a farm, right?
I grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere.
Where was the middle of nowhere located?
Northeast Pennsylvania. Okay. And it's funny that you should bring that up, just because right before you got here, I was writing lyrics, and the most important thing for me is to be really honest and true, and to come from somewhere that's me, and or at least to balance out the greater political, global, emotional stuff, and that I like to incorporate in my music, or psychological stuff. It's really important for me to infuse personal experience, because it just brings it down to earth. Yeah. And I was like, I really need to talk about growing up on a farm, because I think one of the huge problems with the agricultural, aggressive agricultural business that is, ripping the lungs of our earth out, and, causing all kinds of problems, is just people's lack of connection with earth, and just how food gets to our plates anyway. And so I was writing lyrics about scrubbing shit off of a chicken egg, taking the eggs out from underneath the chickens that shit on them. Excuse my language.
No, feel free.
It is what it is. And hustling at 8 years old, selling my chicken eggs around the neighborhood, and with my little basket, and with my LEI t-shirt and Spice Girls platforms, and I was like, this is such a beautiful image. And I was like, now that I'm 27, I'm I think I had to wait until now to realize how beautiful that is, and how special that was. And also I don't eat meat now, but I raised lambs that we then ate. Yeah. And a lot of people that eat meat would be horrified by that. Yeah. But to me, that's no, I think it's horrifying that you would eat meat and not realize that what you're consuming is a sentient being. And I don't have any judgment against people that eat meat, but I'm saying that to me, I do feel upset with people that are not connected to that, So yeah, growing up on a farm, I'm realizing is becoming more consciously part of my identity, as opposed to just what it was,
Were you purposely not using that in your work?
Not purposely. I think that, I don't know why I didn't incorporate it before. I think that my work definitely, in RIP Chrysalis, the last record, the title track, RIP Chrysalis, was about me empathizing, or sort of feeling camaraderie and kinship with the rats and the pigeons, because they're nature, blurring the lines of the grid of the city. Yeah. And that's kind of how I felt I'm a little country girl in the grid and, finding the nature within it, finding the nature within the motherboard and, like going to Far Rock to get my dose of, just the sort of the glory of nature without all the, white noise. But yeah, so I guess it has permeated, but not so specifically as scrubbing chicken shit. Yeah. I don't know if the lyric will be that overt. It'll be a little bit
more metaphor.
Yeah. But now whoever's listening.
Yes. So what is that like when you grow up on a farm and you're taking care of the animals to then later to slaughter? It's beautiful. It's so real. I think that one naturally develops a sense of respect just for the calories that give you the energy to go about your day and sort of that whatever expression you are, what you eat, just kind of really comes through. And I remember chasing my lamb, Roxy. Totally named after the surfing company. Okay. Like, I'm not even gonna beat around the bush there. I was like a, 11-year-old little girl. Yeah, why not?
It was the early 2000s. I went to the mall, loved Roxy. I'm not gonna lie. And named my lamb Roxy, and I was chasing her around in the fields where it was just filled with wildflowers. And it was such a beautiful experience, but I was doing that to make her meat taste better.
Okay. Which you learned from your parents, right?
Yeah, okay. It's like a healthy lamb that gets a lot of exercise, just is more tender and just tastes better, and she's also just happier. We had a great time together.
Unbeknownst to her.
Yes. I have no idea what was going on, if she knew. The whole time she was like, oh, fuck you, I know exactly what's going on.
I'm not moving.
She's like,
stand still.
There are some stubborn little ones. Those are the goats. The goats are really stubborn. The sheep are much more easy to herd. Now I really understand them being used as a metaphor of like somebody that is. My dad always says that sheep. Yeah, everyone, they're just sheep. My dad is like an accidental anarchist. He's like against everything and is like lives on the fringe of society. But growing up and then slaughtering. Well, actually, it wasn't. There was a whole sort of ritual to it. Ultimately, I mean, not in the sort of like, not in any kind of way you might immediately assume. The ritual was that we would then go show the sheep at the local fair.
Okay,
and you would literally be judged by like a sheep showing judge, and like he would feel your lamb down, and be like, you raised a good lamb for slaughter, and like, and I kind of loved it, and I was also very good at it.
Okay,
I won a mini trophy and a blue ribbon for showing my sheep, and you have to sort of parade them around the ring, and then when you stop, you have to like stand up straight, and you wear your like little white shirt with your pants tucked in, and then you kneel, and the judge comes around, and you have to make sure that your sheep's feet are perfectly square. They can't be all kind of like lopsided. And then depending on how well you did in showing, there's an auction, and there's the guy with the
someone's actually doing it.
Doing it and like saying all these numbers really fast. I don't think anybody understands what they're doing. Honestly, that whole thing boggles my mind. It's one of the most insane performances. I mean, that must have permeated my performance somehow. Not that I'm like doing that thing, but vocally it's super impressive. If you don't know what I'm talking about, definitely look it up because it's wild. The animal auctioneers. And then, depending on how well you do, you sell your sheep.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, sometimes we would decide not to. We'd have ones that we'd keep. But, I remember making $200 to $400 selling a sheep to be sold for slaughter. And sometimes if it was like a really nice ewe, they would buy it and then keep it for breeding purposes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, this is a huge part of me, and it's funny.
I like that. So does this feel natural to you, or are you like one of those kids thinking, I'm going to get out of here one day?
I definitely was a dreamer, and I used to dance in front of the mirror and be like, you know what? There's big things coming. Mm-hmm. I can feel it. I couldn't even imagine the things that I'm doing now. Yeah. But, I used to definitely make wishes. I remember making wishes that were like, I want to be on lots of airplanes. Mm-hmm. I want to be a jet setter.
Yeah.
And every time I get on an airplane and I'm shaking my head and cursing under my breath because I'm having to get on an airplane every day on a 6-week Europe tour. And I'm like, why the hell did I make that? I'm like, I hate this.
I thought this up.
I thought this was going to be lavish and cool, but no, it's a total gift, and I'm really grateful for it. But that little part of me who grew up on the farm is always, that's the part that I talk to when I start to feel really depressed, and I start feeling down or depressed or tired and oh, this is so dehumanizing being a musician sometime, and this rapidly changing industry, et cetera, et cetera. And that's when I talk to that little girl inside me, I get excited again.
Yeah.
And that's a really beautiful thing. I realize now how much poetry I was surrounded by and how cinematic that whole thing was, and how the content was just so juicy. And especially as somebody that is, because a lot of those kids that I grew up doing that stuff with, they're still there.
Yeah.
And they're fine. They're great. They've got their farms. They're already pumping out babies and, driving their pickup trucks and doing whatever. They look at me and they're like, damn, we had no idea.
Yeah.
And not that I'm doing anything crazy, but I'm in the city and I'm, wearing 6-foot platforms. I'm doing just wild things to them. To them, I'm really an alien, know.
Yeah.
And but I love that. I think that a lot of the lyrics of my next record are about that. Just because a lot of my friends that are aliens like me were sort of always I think they were Hot Topic kids, and in the city or totally on their stuff early. I was a super late bloomer. I remember not, I didn't get a stereo system, a CD until I was double digits at least, and my first CD was Tattoo, it was and I kind of,
who's Tattoo?
It's the Russian band, the two girls, the super poppy.
Okay. TAT.
Yeah, TAT.
Yeah. What was their hit?
All the things she said, running through my head, running through my head. This is not enough.
I forgot about that. Where did you hear about Tattoo from?
Well, the reason why I got that CD was because my dad is Russian, and his dad, or one of his best friends, was coming back from Moscow, and I think before they even hit in the U.S., gave me that CD and was this is the next big thing. You got to check out these girls. And, we only had records in the house. My dad was a huge jazz head and old reggae. We used to listen to Gladiators records and just Mingus and Miles Davis, obviously tons of I think every morning I woke up to Miles Davis. But, and so that was, to me, that was nature. It was like waking up and like hearing the birds sing, like hearing jazz. It was hard for me to even process, but then people like, I remember the first time I saw this tattoo CD with these girls, it was highly stylized, and I could almost sense that there was like, you know, big fat businessmen behind it, you know, and like feeling that thing. I think I must have been like 12 or 13. And yeah, but like, and I also, like, to me, I think a lot of kids was like, oh, okay, so there's this, what else is there? What else is there? And I mean, maybe it's a flaw, but I don't know. It's just who I am. Like, to me, I think I listened to that thing like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, and just that, you know, and I was kind of like content with that. Like, I'm somebody that will listen to one song over and over again, and I still listen to those songs over and over again. And like, I love the structure of a record, but I'm kind of like that. I can just milk that little spark that from that one little riff that they do on that one track. You know, I'm like that.
Was it more like too that Tattoo is yours as opposed to Miles Davis?
Totally.
Whatever your
yeah,
dad
it was like,
listening
these
to.
are my people, these crazy girls, and like they're making out and they're in love, and like, and that, I think that, as much as I think that was a marketing scheme, it did appeal to me. I was like, this is new and fresh. Like, I want to make out with a girl too.
Yeah.
Like, this is, you know, like, I like how this is weird, and I like how this is like, you know, their video is them like being like separated with some weird, like, almost like prison campy sort of vibe with like a fence and pouring rain. And I think it just spoke to some like highly emo part of me that I didn't even realize. You know, I was always friends with the emo kids, but I was always like the kind of goofy one. Okay. That was like, I liked the poetry of the emo, but I was kind of all over the place, you know, yeah, I've always been like the satellite member of like multiple groups, and like kind of like going in and out, and you know, it's yeah. And I think my next CD was Lil' Kim. Yeah, so I was getting the good girls, but you know, just like here and there, I wasn't like a crazy CD collector. And I think this is like, I feel like I sound like the antithesis of like what the real music heads are like, you know. And I'm a music head. I'm just like a different kind of music head. I'm like, the music is already like in there going, like streaming, and it's so much of it. I think I'm consciously like, I don't want to, sometimes I'm like, I don't want to put too much in because there's so much coming out. I kind of need to get it out before I put more in or something. I don't know.
Are you plan? Do you know how you're going to get to the life you want? How you're going to get off the farm? Oh, good question. Well, then, you know, shit hit the fan. You know, my mom had to sell the farm, and I had to go to. I was homeschooled. I didn't mention that yet. I was homeschooled up till 15. So then I went to public school, which was a big awakening on some other level. And to be 15 and never in school.
And it was exciting, but you know, and I think I cared about school, but I quickly realized that the education system is messed up. I was like, I remember being in these classes and being like, they do not know how to teach people. Because I remember having this thought when I was like 15. I was like, none of these people realize that curiosity is the currency of education. Like, we need to be like finding where each person in this room, like what they're specifically interested in about each of these subjects, instead of just like shoving down this like extremely stale information. And like when the teacher is literally like slurring because they're not even transferring the reality of what they were speaking about. It was just like, just getting to when the bell rings, you know? And I was kind of like quickly like, this is bullshit. Like, I can teach myself better than this. And it was also budding, the internet was starting to go crazy. It was like, all the information is there. Like, I can take my, you know, so, I I think my plan, I kind of realized that I was in control. And I think that came from my sort of anarchistic anomaly upbringing as a homeschooled person on this like farm with these weird European parents. As I was like, this is bullshit. And especially in this shit town, Pennsylvania, slag heap, like depressed town, very poor. I was like, I'm going to go to the city. I'm going to New York. So when senior year came around, I was like, I'm not going back. I signed up for local community college classes. I graduated through Pennsylvania homeschoolers all on my own, and then went right to the city. And it was like, quote unquote, my like gap year. But I immediately, I look back at that time, I was so hungry. I was so determined. And I also believed in, because I was allowed to believe, because as a girl that can rip guitar and, play in high school, and I was the only one, which is just, this is crazy to me. I don't think it can't be like that anymore. Yeah. But in a school of 2,000 kids, I was the only girl that was like playing on the Battle of the Bands things and playing with the boys, smoking weed and jamming or whatever. I hate that word, but it's true, and, like that gave me power. And that immediately elevated my sense of self, my sense of like ability. And from early on, I was just like, cause I think that, and I was frustrated with, the curriculum of the actual school itself. So I was like, I'm going to use this to learn about music with all the boys that know about music, and I would hang out with them and learn what I could, and then show them up. But so I knew I had that in my tool belt, and I went to the city, made myself obvious, like met Roberta Flack on the street, had lunch with her. She like helped me like rent guitars and stuff. She gave me her phone number. She's like, call me anytime. She was the one that was like, what's your plan? Are you going to make a record? And I was like, sure. Yeah, I want to make a record. She was like, and I was like, well, I think I'm going to go to art school. She was like, girl, like you got what you need, make a record and then follow from there. You don't need to go to art school. And that was very cool. She was the first adult that was saying like, making a record is the number one. It wasn't like you don't need to go to art school. It was like, make a record first and then see what happens. Okay.
Well, you just ran into her on the street?
I was busking. I did a lot of busking in Central Park. Yeah. And then, then I, got hired to do all this music stuff and ran to bands, and I was going on tour when I was 18 with like older musicians doing backup vocals and playing guitar in a couple different bands. And then, but more than anything, that fire was burning, and but the New York Minutes were hot. Like that stuff happens, the Roberta thing, and then just like various people that I met, like that would just give me work. And, so I've just kind of been riding that wave, I guess.
Where did you were self-taught? What instruments were you playing?
I played violin since I was 3 years old, and played in a lot of children's orchestras, and with my dad, who was such a music head and like also Russian and really strict when it came to practicing. Like I would say that most of my musical awareness was quickly forced upon me at a young age. And then, it was fun to forget all of those rules when I first moved to, little bit after I moved to New York. So like, I would say 2008, 2009, when I discovered the Brooklyn DIY scene, and I was, going to crazy noise shows, seeing lightning bolt plays, seeing like, just really heavy stuff, tinseled teeth, just like really crazy heavy music from all over the country in the DIY thing. I just was like, all right, I have something to give that can bridge delicacy of the classical composition that I have, but also this like figuring out how to find beauty in the destruction of those rules too.
Okay.
So yeah.
And how long had you been writing songs?
Since that first year in high school, since 15 years old.
Okay.
I like immediately, I think that transition of like going to school and learning guitar that year also, it just started like pouring out of me. And like sometimes on RIP Chrysalis, there are like phrases and parts of those songs that I incorporated, like that are just like part of my personal mythology.
Okay.
And
which is
which one or which?
Oh, you have several mythologies? Or?
Well, just like phrases from songs, you know, just like sit there, kind of like a mantras, like poetry that you just always have there for you. Like there's in one of those lyrics is it's like what would you be asking me, or what would I be asking me? Oh my goodness, now I don't remember. It's like I have to have the song to hear it. Yeah. I guess I actually haven't heard that one in a while, but for sure when making RIP Chrysalis, I like had to incorporate some of that stuff. But yeah, whatever. It was just like stupid, clever lyric, you know, when you like read you like the little clever thing, they're like, wow, okay, well. But you know, quoting my dad too as like a music teacher, he comes up in the music too in the lyrics. But yeah.
Did you know that was Roberta Flack when you met her? Okay,
that's a funny story actually, because like she came up to me with her like cute poodle and her black yoga pants and like this like bleach afro, like gorgeous, just like and she was like, you know, that's what she asked first thing was like, do you have a record? And I said no. And we talked a little bit about it. She gave me immediate advice and just kind of like, you got this. And she handed me her card and I was like, oh, okay, Roberta Flack. She's like, you don't know who I am, do you? And I was like, no, I'm sorry. And she was like, you young kids. Yeah. Like, she's like, do you know that song, Killing Me Softly? And I was like, yeah, by the Fugees, by Lauryn Hill. And she was like, she's like, I wrote that song. And I immediately I think I turned like lobster, like, and just kind of shrunk, because that really is one of my favorite songs ever. I still listen to it all the time. And I immediately went home, and I didn't have a computer, but I remember like and I didn't have a phone either. That was like my total scrounge period. I like went and found quarters and like made a phone call to like go to a person's house to like use the internet to like look up the song. And I listened to that original version of Killing Me Softly, and it blew me away. And I was just and that kind of, I think I unrealistically was so excited, like life is so beautiful, and like you meet these legends just on the street, and it was in front of the Dakota, and she lives in the Dakota, and like, you know, Yoko's there, and so that feeling was ridiculous. I remember riding the train, and I'm just like laughing at myself right now, because I was just like cheesing, like huge smile, just like so excited for life. Yeah.
Well, you know, there's a story about Roberta Flack that Luther Vandross was singing. Like, he had a big backup career, right? Singing backup singing. Yeah. He was on her album, and she like doing backup vocals, and he hadn't made his solo music. And she said to him, you know, you're better than being somebody's backup singer. You need to make your own album. She's great. She's like she's such a mama. Like, she really. Well, that story just confirms it, because that's what I got from her. And I know that she has a music school for kids too. She has like a conservatory for young talented kids. And she obviously was extremely supportive, and you know, she and a catalyst.
Totally in a catalyst. Yeah.
So how long was it from meeting her, that happening, to your albums coming out?
I guess, honestly, it was a while because I am at that time, I'm really grateful for, so that was around 18 years old. Mm-hmm. And I told myself, if you don't put out a record by the time you're 19, I am highly upset with myself. But then I really thought about how I wanted my records to sound, and I wanted them to sound perfect, And I kept trying, and I recorded a lot of different records, and to me, they never sounded right. And I threw them all in the bin. Mm-hmm. I threw out a lot of records, and it wasn't until I was 25 that I released my first record, mm-hmm. and I'm so happy that I had the wherewithal and the sort of whatever out of body perspective, out of ego perspective, or maybe it was my ego, it was no, this needs to be sounding really, really good.
Was it the song craft writing itself or the sound of the songs?
It was not about the writing. It was the writing the songs has always been super easy. It was about understanding the production side, about understanding that, and being able to capture the atmosphere and romance that I really needed. Because I knew the way that my favorite records made me feel, and I needed my record to make me feel that way too. And that's why I kind of can't necessarily not empathize, or I can't necessarily relate to people that say, well, when I make a record, I can't listen to it. I put it out and I can't listen to it. Because I feel like I'm making music that I want to listen to. And it's not like an ego gratification thing, maybe slightly, damn, I'm the shit, no, I mean, sometimes it's that's a feeling worth living for, it's I really wanted to hear a song like this and I couldn't find it, so I made it, and a lot of that existed in my imagination, and it was just figuring out how to make all that happen. And you know what I realized? It wasn't about getting the right engineer and the right producer in the right studio. It was not about that. It was about me being in control and learning how to do all those things. Because no matter how well I could try to explain it to somebody, they didn't get it. And so that's what I think really changed it, was when I took the ball in my own hands and produced my own records. And, I did that. I did my first record with GarageBand. It took me a while to, get over myself. I was I got to do this on Pro Tools, and I have to use a fancy microphone, and blah, blah, blah. And then at that point when I was 25, I was just tired. I was this isn't working. Why isn't this working? And I'm really glad that I just sucked it up. And, because it's music, I love gear. I love nice gear. I love nice studios. But music transcends the gear, not the other way around. So if you've got something, and it's just the first record, and it was about just encapsulating what I had to offer. And I think that's a good place to start with the first record.
And this was RIP Chrysalis?
That one was Metalepsis. So that was early 2015. Okay. And then, and then RIP Chrysalis came out later that year. Okay. Yeah, and then it's been 2 years, and I'm ready for the next one. I've got it almost finished, and it's definitely the thing in the tiny cosmic blink of Alex Drewchin, Eartheater on planet Earth. With this particular life, it's the thing I'm most proud of is this next record. So I'm very excited about it.
And how is it different from the other two?
The other two, people would use very vague words like folk or psychedelic or highly lyrical, and I think that really, things that are actually psychedelic are awesome. But unfortunately, in music, when you say psychedelic music, you're associated with one of the most blockheaded groups. I'm not sorry to say that. I do not like psych rock at all. I just don't.
Yeah.
And I can get down with some like original Pink Floyd, like the but like seriously, ever since then, it's just like a circle jerk situation. And it's, to me, it's taking the aspects that I think that they couldn't describe in my first records, that they were just labeling psychedelic because they didn't know they hadn't heard anything like it necessarily. And it does sound, so let's say, like, to me, it sounds like a film. It sounds like a film sans the film. So it's like, it's got the Foley, it's got the way that juxtaposition works to like keep you awake while like scenes are switching, and it's like, it's got that fast, it's got that slow, it's got that romance, it's got that thriller vibe, that mystery, so instead of, I think that in the past, when I was making things that were like folk, it was because I was playing guitar. And to me, I was playing the guitar because it's a blueprint instrument. It's not because I was like in love with the way that the guitar sounds. I was like, this is where I can write the music to sing on top of. So in this new record, everything that would have been played with guitar, for instance, is being played with a fat synth sound or like orchestra and harp and big drums and bass and weird distorted stuff and all these crazy Foley film sounds that I just, downloaded and then re-sound designed. And so it's just like a much more full sound, but it's very cinematic. It's very like movie trailer, beyond on some like dreamscape situation, but also it's pretty Jamie, but it conceptually like addresses very real things about being a human being that happens to have a vulva and a pair of tits or whatever, it's like, and just like expressing these like frustrating, ridiculous things and not being afraid to, and it's political, it's playful, it's sassy, it's bitchy, it's really heavy at times and scary and like a thriller, and then all of a sudden the breeze comes in and the lace curtain starts to brush your face as you wake up from that nap, and you wake up and Liv Tyler is standing above you, like, giving you a butterfly kiss. So it kind of feels like that.
How did you like come up with the concept of all that?
Oh man, I think just like I've been trying to figure it out forever. You have all these feelings and you're watching all the artists around, I'm watching all the artists around me, and I'm seeing what I think is actually important and good, while also looking at myself and being like, yeah, I guess that's a really hard question to answer. I don't know. I really don't know. I think it just happened. And
you have a loose idea when it's coming out?
Well,
too soon to say?
I've had extremely light conversations with labels. I'm in a transitional period with labels right now. Right now I have nothing, and it's I wanted to finish the record before I talk to any labels. It's going to come out this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
For sure.
Okay. And you've got, Mom? You did that recently?
Yeah, I did.
A performance?
Yeah, MOM. It was a really important thing for me to do, because in the last year I've realized how much my body...
Mind over matter.
Yeah. Well, actually, that one particularly is matter over mind.
Matter over mind, okay.
But even though mind over matter is very important, it's not denying mind over matter. It's just bringing it fully back to the body.
Okay.
And like... so I was composing all the pieces and composing everything starting with dance, where mostly, as we know dance comes after the music.
Yeah.
So it was fun for me to come up with moves and sequences with the body and then think about, well, what sound would go with that? So that was really fun and sort of an integral exploration.
Okay. Will you be doing that performance again, or is that just a one-time thing?
Maybe. I don't have plans to, but it should be something that could happen again.
And there's a book, an album, possibly?
Yep. I'm working on the book, finishing up the sort of post-production right now. And it's making a book is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. It's like, I was like, oh, this is a cool idea. And then I got into it. I was like, what did I get myself into? But, so it's about the choreography. And because I started to realize I was developing my own language with the body language. So it's a book of poetry written in body language. Okay. And there will be a download code that will be printed in the inside cover of the book where you can download music.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
2017 is going to be a great year.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm excited. It should be.
Oh, cool.
Who's the animal? What's the animal of this year?
Oh, God,
I don't
rooster?
Know.
Is it rooster? Seems like it's always rooster. Is it rooster?
It's about being woke.
I know, we're not woke to animals.
Wake up, motherfuckers.
So, best place for people to keep up with everything online?
I guess, to be honest, I find Instagram a very, easy platform for me just to, keep updates on, because I'm a very visual person and an aesthetic mind. So, Instagram, Facebook. Instagram is at Eartheater. Twitter is at Alexandra Drewchin. But if you search Eartheater, it comes up. Yeah. But then I have a website, eartheater.solar, which I'm going to, I try to put some little special secret things up there. So that's a good thing to visit occasionally. Okay. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
This was wonderful.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me.
Sure. And I'm looking forward to everything this year.
Thank you. Me too.
Sexual thrill, got that hypothetical feel, got that pragmatical intake. I'm an inevitable earthquake, drop it in the deck for a sec. Back about to bounce on the next. I don't belong to a set. Too much comfort wrecks the intellect. Lesbian wisdom in my eye. Devils advocating disguise. I see all things from all sides. When I think about it, it's real. When I dance about it, it's feel. When I play about it, it's bliss. When I like about it, it's chest. When I fuck about it, it's running. Wild algorithmic bunny, so sensitive, so sensitive. Reflex, 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 reflex. Got that micro muscle reflex, got that micro EVFlex, got that nanomolecular depth, got that sexual thrill, got that hypothetical pill, got that pragmatical intake, analytical runway, drop it in the neck, drop it in the neck. Got that micro muscle reflex, got that micro EVFlex, got that nanomolecular depth, got that sexual thrill, got that hypothetical pill, got that pragmatical intake, analytical runway, drop it in the neck, drop it in the reflex. Got that micro muscle reflex, 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 reflex. Don't belong to a set. I don't belong to a set. I don't belong to a set. Too much comfort wrecks the intellect. Devils advocating disguise. I see all things from all sides. Fictional processing. This novel is getting to me. This novel is getting to me. Getting to me. Getting to me. My love is wireless. I don't need a source for this. Solar powered bliss. Human 01. Type 1 alias. Reflex. Type 1 reflex. Reflex. Type 1 reflex. Reflex. Type 1 reflex. Reflex.
And there you have it, 2 previously unreleased songs from Eartheater, The Pond, and Central Nervous Sister. Again, her website is eartheater.solar. There are links to her social media there, and you can also buy her music at that link. TalkMusicTalk.com. That is my website for more podcast information. I also have a personal website, which is thisisboyce.com, and you can read excerpts from the novels that I've written there and also check out the music that I make. And if you are on Instagram, please follow me there at thisisboyce. I have a call to action for you. There is a TMT Talk Music Talk app. You can download it for free, every single episode free for iPhone and Android, wherever you like to get your apps. Or you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or Google Play and just about everywhere else. If you are listening on iTunes, it is especially helpful to leave a rating and or review to help spread the word about Talk Music Talk. The show is also available on SoundCloud, starting with episode 100. That's soundcloud.com/thisisboyce. You can also check out my music there too. And once you download or subscribe, I have a back catalog suggestion for you going all the way back to episode number 15 from February 2015 with Rennie Lane, singer, songwriter. Great story about her major label woes and how she did not really know herself and how that played a part into it, and also not having the support in her life personally to deal with it, and then how she decided to go independent with her music. That's episode number 15 with Rennie Lane. I will put the link in the show notes for you to listen to it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode with Eartheater, Alex Drewchin. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, and there will be a next time, this one's for you, Liz.